tonight, a recount continues in Marystown, and we could learn who will represent the riding of Terra Nova the Peninsulas any minute.
No ramps, no elevators, no access. One student found themselves on crutches and they can't get around their school.
I can't go to gym, library, or the lower floor. While other people, like my classmates, are having fun, I have to do work.
I'll tell you what's happening at CC Lachlan in Corner Brook.
If MUN is getting help from the government, especially when it's called tuition offset relief, students are supposed to be served, because who is MUN really serving if they're not serving their students directly?
Well, students want MUN to bring back the tuition freeze in the face of rising costs.
Just amazing, because I never thought we would go to a game ever like that.
Some lucky hockey players from Nain got the all-star treatment. They'll tell us all about it.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin in the House of Assembly. An opposition MHA has withdrawn his accusation that the finance minister was cooking the books in the most recent budget.
Speaker, I respectfully retract my comments and questions from yesterday afternoon.
Lynn Paddock had said the finance minister was manipulating the province's finances because the latest budget included decades worth of payments totaling around $500 million from a pending lawsuit with tobacco companies. Paddock then called for the premier to fire the finance minister. The retraction comes after Liberals accused Paddock of using unparliamentary language. Well, the number of people in this province who struggle to put food on the table is growing. According to a survey from Statistics Canada, just over 30% of the population say they are food insecure. That's up from 26% the year previous. It means this province has the third highest rate of food insecurity among the 10 provinces behind Alberta and Saskatchewan. Food First NL CEO Josh Smee says programs and services to help people with food insecurity are not keeping up with that growth.
I mean, I think about the absolute number. That means there's over 150,000 people in this province who are food insecure, right? Which is just wild. And that number, you're right, it went up since last year. It's gone up, it's almost doubled since 2021, right? And so I think what that makes me think is that the scale of the response that we're making to this is just not matching the scale of the problem, right? And we're just seeing how much impact changes in the cost of living are having, and nothing's keeping pace.
Well, an accountant is facing charges over accusations he defrauded the fish plant in Brigus. The RCMP laid charges of theft and fraud against 53-year-old Craig Williams this week. Here Now's Elizabeth Whitten has the details.
2 years after Independent Fish Harvesters Limited sounded the alarm over concerns of skullduggery from an employee, the RCMP has laid criminal charges. 53-year-old Craig Williams, the former mayor of Conception Harbour, is now facing 1 count of fraud over $5,000 and theft over $5,000. The Brigus fish plant contacted the police in April of 2023 over concerns of internal fraud. The police say Williams was working as the company's office manager and accountant when he was suspected as being involved. The police investigation discovered internal fraud in excess of $125,000. Williams is due back in court on July 2nd in Harbour Grace. The charges have not been proven in court. In an email, plant manager Graham Hiscock told CBC News he was relieved to see charges after a 2-year police investigation, saying it's quite the relief to know he is finally charged and the public will now know of his character and hopes no one else will fall in his trap. Williams did not respond to a request for comment. Elizabeth Whitten, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, no elevator, no ramps, and no access. One 12-year-old boy in Corner Brook has discovered how difficult it is to get around to school with a broken ankle. Here Now's Colleen Connors digs into the bigger accessibility issues at Ecole CC Lachlan Elementary.
Alice Brazel was playing soccer at school last month. He lost his balance, fell backwards, and fractured his ankle. Now he's getting around with crutches and a big blue cast. While getting to the dinner table is manageable, navigating the school hallways, not so much.
It's very hard. The school's very inaccessible, and it's all stairs.
Brazel can't attend gym class, library, or music. Instead, he has to stay in his classroom, alone. Why? Because the school has a lot of stairs, but no ramps or elevators. It's a major safety concern for Brazel's mom, who says the school has one door and no plan for a safe escape. She brought her concerns to the education department and local MHAs, but got little back. It's hard to see from this angle, but CC Laughlin has long, twisty-turny hallways and lots of short sets of stairs everywhere. The Department of Education will not let me film or show you the inside of the school. They wouldn't grant me any interviews either, but they did send me a statement saying that they support the full participation of students in the schools in this province. There was no mention of CC Laughlin or accessibility issues for this school in particular. Buildings owned by NL schools have varying degrees of accessibility associated with their age. The Education Department says buildings undergo constant improvements where possible.
Accessibility is a right. It's a human right. It's not a luxury. It's not okay just to say this is the way it is and we have an old building. I'm sure retrofits are expensive. This building probably just needs to be replaced, as I'm sure many others do. But, you know, these kids deserve better. They deserve a safe, inclusive space that they can learn in and thrive and flourish.
Chair of the school council, Kevin Mitchell, just measured the front door. He says a standard wheelchair could barely fit through the frame. And CC Laughlin is the only French immersion school in the city. The inaccessible school is an invisible barrier for children with mobility issues. The closest French school that could accommodate is Stephenville, an hour away.
I hear families at least weekly come up to me and say, we need a new school, we need a new school. And in order for something like that to occur, there has to be engagement and advocacy within the community among the parents of the school, because there's only so much you can do on school council. There's only so much you can do on third-party groups. It has to be community engagement, community involvement.
As for Brazel, he only has a few more days on crutches. The cast comes off this week. But his mom says she will continue to voice her concerns to the Education Department and push for a new, more accessible school. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Staying with education, student representatives are calling for a tuition freeze at Memorial University. A handful of students gathered at the Signal Hill campus, where the university's Board of Regents was meeting today. Your Nesmar Quinn reports.
I know students are skipping meals.
Students say the high cost of living is forcing them to make difficult decisions, and it's driving the recent enrollment drop at MUN. They say that's bad news for the whole province.
If we want to make sure to retain our population and we want to make sure to reverse our aging population, we need to be giving young people here opportunities, and that starts with giving them a break.
They're calling on the university to help them by cancelling a planned tuition increase.
MUN administration has the opportunity to make the right decision in freezing tuition with the money allocated to them by the government with the tuition offset grant.
We're expecting them to freeze tuition for the 2025-26 year.
In its last budget, the provincial government paused a planned $13 million cut to the university's tuition offset grant. It also gave the university almost $8 million to offset the campus renewal fee. Students say that's a clear signal to MUN that it should also pause tuition fee increases.
It's only right for the university to freeze tuition and make sure that students don't have to worry about an additional 4% increase this year.
Student representatives believe the province paused its funding cut with a clear intention to prevent a tuition hike. But Memorial University's leaders don't see it that way. In a statement to CBC News, MUN wrote, the pause in the reduction of the tuition offset grant did not include directives on how the money should be spent. The university also wrote the tuition offset grant from government is an investment that funds the university's core operations. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, residents in the riding of Terra Nova, the Peninsulas, are still waiting as the recount continues tonight in Marystown. Here Now's Heather Gillis is there with the latest.
3 days in, and there's still no result in the recount in Terra Nova, the Peninsulas. On election night, Roe was leading for most of the evening, but then Germain started to catch up, pulling ahead slightly towards the end of the night. With one poll of special ballots remaining, the voting was paused. When counting resumed the following day, Germain, the Liberal, had won. It was the tightest margin of victory in the country at the time, just 12 votes. A win so tight it automatically triggered a recount. The vote recounting started here at St. Gabriel's Hall on Monday and wrapped up last evening. Lawyers presented arguments about disputed ballots to Supreme Court Judge Garrett Handrigan this afternoon. Handrigan is overseeing this recount. It's unclear when the lawyers could finish up their arguments or when the judge could deliver a decision. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Marystown.
Well, it was an opportunity of a lifetime for a girls' hockey team from the northernmost community in the province. Team Nainimiut was flown to Quebec to catch the Professional Women's Hockey League in action. Here and Now's Regan Burden has their story.
It all began with being picked to be part of a show on TSN called Breaking Down Barriers, a series showcasing people and organizations committed to changing hockey culture. A show that offered the teens from Team Nainimiut a life-changing chance. Head to Montreal for Game 1 of the PWHL playoffs.
It was a playoffs and it was just amazing because I never thought we would go to a game ever like that. It was just amazing and it was so incredible just to attend them.
While the show, the game, and the trip were amazing, having their team and community recognized will be something the girls won't forget.
It felt good because then we realized that people out of town and like in the professional hockey leagues like recognized us and like seen us.
And the highlight of the trip for the girls?
I think it's when we went to go watch Game 1 of the Ottawa Charge in Montreal Victoire when we went go in the tunnel to fist bump the Victoire players just before the game.
While Air Canada and the PWHL took care of the Happy Valley Goose Bay to Montreal flights, the team still had to get themselves out of Nain.
Goose Bay to Nain, there's no Air Canada flight to Nain. It was through Air Borealis. So you had to take some extra planning, organizing, and securing funding for that part of the trip. So it was through Aboriginal Sport Recreation Circle, and now, thankfully for them, that they came through and funded that part of the trip for the girls.
Dicker believes the trip will give the girls more than memories of a PWHL game.
We did meet some of the Montreal Victoire players and some of the Ottawa Charge players. And in meeting them, some of their players were Indigenous too, like us. And some of them came from small Indigenous communities like us. So if the girls really want to pursue anything outside of hockey, might be something else, that it's possible for anybody, as long as you work hard, as long as you follow your dreams.
And after going on this trip, Team Nainimiut is feeling motivated to move forward with hockey. Some of the players say they've been inspired to pursue a career in the PWHL. Regan Burden, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
My heart was so warm to know that all of Canada was tuned in and voting, and the Newfoundland and Labrador was so strong behind me as well. It was great.
Well, Jacob Lewis sang his way to $1 million last night on Canada's Got Talent. He already has big plans for what's next. We'll catch up with the pride of Butlerville.
How exciting. Well, take a look at these temperatures across the province. It is hot in Lab City right now, 24 degrees. Very different story though if you were in onshore winds, Bonta Vista, 5 degrees right now. If we, or as we head through the night tonight, we're looking at some rain moving across the island, some sunshine and mild temperatures as we head through tomorrow. And then the long weekend outlook at this point looks pretty decent for the island. However, there's a bit of snow in the forecast. I'll get into the details coming up.
The newest winner of Canada's Got Talent is from right here in this province. Jacob Lewis won last night's $1 million grand prize. We caught up with the offshore worker from Butlerville earlier today.
Jacob Lewis, you just won $1 million from Rogers. What do you want to say?
Thank you, Rogers. Thank you, Canada. My family, my friends, everyone back home. Thank you, guys.
It was a flood of emotion, and it was just, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulder to be able to get away from that financial stress of like everyday life it's difficult, right? And the $1 million price tag from Rogers really helps navigate in that different direction. So it's been wonderful, and to share that moment with my family, and that was so cool to see my boys run up on stage. I've envisioned that for such a long time, and to see that become a reality and to be able to share that stage with them in such a memory that they won't forget, because there's so much footage out there now. And I know you go back and you look at stuff from back in VHS days, and they're going to get to see this stuff as they get older. So it was so awesome.
Hello.
Does it still feel a bit unreal?
Yeah, it's still a bit surreal. And, getting the opportunity to come on all these outlets and chat with everyone has been amazing. And I really appreciate that you guys are all getting me on here, because I really want to take that moment to say thank you to anyone that's been following along with this and helping. It's been great, and I just can't thank everyone enough.
When are you due back at the office?
I'm back to work next week.
You might be, so you have a few days to come down from the high.
I got a few days to come down from it, yeah. So we're going to stay up here for a few days now and do some sightseeing with the family and have a little bit of fun, make a trip out of it for them, because I've been a bit busy for the last little bit, and make it also some more memories that they'll hold on to, and then we'll back to the rock and navigate how life is going to look for this, because I am going to give music a shot now, and I am going to put my foot forward for this.
Let's hear it one more time for Jacob Lewis, winner of Canada's Got Talent 2025 and $1 million.
A lot of people, if they were handed $1 million, you might think about some big travel plans, a nice big house. There are a lot of things you could do with that money, but I know from talking to you before that one of your priorities is looking after your two boys, because they do have some health challenges. Are you thinking the money is going to make that easier?
Oh, absolutely. And with the CBC financial coaching, it'll really help a lot. And to be able to get things situated for them, and to be able to get some retirement savings plans for my family as well. Also, as we go through, it'll be great. And I also want to take this big opportunity to make that leap into the music industry. I do think the opportunity is now. I do think that if I can get myself on the right stages, it'll help a lot. This biggest stage in Canada has been amazing, and it's time to keep the foot on the gas. There's no slowing down now. The work is about to get hard and real, and there's nothing that has come at me in life that I hasn't put my best foot forward and worked really hard at, and I'm not afraid of a hard day's work.
You rock!
It's been such a wonderful experience. It's really nice to see how folks in different industries work together and how they gel. And I know the industry that I work in is oil and gas, so I know how that kind of works. But to see how things work in a different, that's been also another big lesson that I've learned, to see how things kind of works in the entertainment industry. And I've been taking notes of every bit of that I could.
Earlier this week, I said, where do you perform most regularly? And you said, I do tend to do most of my singing in the car. Are you still going to keep singing in the car?
Well, I'm always going to be singing in the car, but that's never going to change. Some of my best performances have been on the Trans-Canada Highway on the way home. But no, that's the time that I used to really get to practice. But with this now, maybe I'm going to get to practice and up my game a little bit more, in a little bit more of a better spot. But to be completely honest with you, we all sing in the car. We might pretend like we don't, but we do. And I'm looking forward to doing that every day still.
How can the minister justify leaving thousands of people using uninspected elevators every single day?
An argument in the House over elevator safety. That's ahead on Here and Now. Ashley, I guess the weather story of the day today is Labrador in the west and the heat there.
Yeah, well, punched well above where my forecast was yesterday, into the 20s this afternoon. It just, excuse me. It just started to creep up, actually, within the last couple of hours. Let's take a look at the setup right now. We've got an area of low pressure well to our north, a warm front and then a cold front here where you can see some of that colder air well to the north there. But lots of heat being pumped in towards Lab West at the moment. If you take a look at the big picture, though, we've got some significant heat in Manitoba and parts of northern Ontario. Temperatures yesterday reaching in the mid-30s, mid to upper 30s, 37 degrees in parts of Manitoba yesterday, and that is leading to some forest fire situations. And we definitely have that heat in and across the Atlantic provinces too. But if we take a look at what's happening right now, the only area really that's seeing that summer-like heat is in Lab City, 24 degrees. Even not far away in Churchill Falls, it's only 9 degrees. So if we take a look at the way the wind is blowing and why we're seeing some temperatures that are a little bit on the cool side, anywhere where you're seeing that onshore flow along the strait there, even along the northeast coast, temperatures are only topping out between 2 and 5 degrees. But you get away from that through parts of central between 11 and 16 degrees right now. Corner Brook, you're sitting at 10. So we are going to continue to see some of this warmth, not quite as dramatic though, for those of you in Lab West, but we are going to see some of that warmth continue as we head through the next day or so. But this is a record, 24.2 degrees just before I came on air there was the temperature that I saw. The old record was in 2006 of 23.7 degrees. So we do have some showers. They're working their way across Labrador and now into Lab West, and that will continue to work its way through central and eventually eastern Newfoundland as we head through the night tonight. And coastal areas of Labrador are also going to see some of that shower activity hanging on towards the coast through the overnight. By the time we get into the midnight hour, we should be seeing that rain rather start to affect eastern portions of the island. And then we've got this little bit of showers continuing through the morning hours. Looks like a line will develop somewhere between Corner Brook, or rather the west coast, but maybe Corner Brook and through to the Avalon. So we may see some of that lingering through the morning hours as well. Overall, a dramatic drop in temperatures once we see that front move through for Labrador, particularly Lab West. You'll be sitting in the minus single digits tonight. You may see a few showers before we see that drop in temperatures. But overall, your winds will shift out of the northwest. That's a good indication that a cold front is moving through. Never mind the drop in temperatures. But overall, temperatures will sit between 3 and 7 degrees across the island. Relatively light winds in the east. And then towards the coast of Labrador, you'll still be dealing with those northwesterly winds gusting somewhere between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. And even the north coast upwards of 60 kilometers per hour. So as far as the rainfall amounts go, that has left to fall by the time we get into tomorrow morning and into the really through the afternoon. We're just looking at about trace to 5 millimeters. Some may see pockets of about 5 to 10 millimeters, and that will be in some of the heaviest showers that we see. So the first part of the day, we'll likely see the potential for some showers to linger. By the time we get into noon, most of us should be seeing some clearing skies. That will definitely be the trend as we head into the afternoon, and generally a beautiful day up across Labrador. Now we'll see a few showers again developing late in the day and through the overnight along the south coast. But other than that, that is about it. Our daytime highs, depending on where you are, will sit in the teens. Again, we're going to see those winds shift from westerlies to northerlies, so temperatures will drop through the afternoon in those onshore winds. Areas like St. Anthony, Twillingate should only top out in the single digits. And then same thing for Labrador, very different story in Lab City at about 8 degrees, and even cooler though for Nain. You'll be hovering around -1. So let's look at your forecasts. We're already looking ahead to the weekend. I'll get into that coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the provincial government is falling way behind on elevator inspections. According to officials, around 65% of required inspections last year did not happen. And that inspired some heated exchanges in the House this week.
How can the minister justify leaving thousands of people using uninspected elevators every single day?
The Honourable Minister for Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Thank you, Speaker. In the estimates this morning, that did come up, but one of the public servants, Speaker, did talk about how elevator inspections work. So every year, the organization or the building manager has to get a certificate. So currently, Speaker, we have 3 full-time elevator inspectors, and I just want to thank those public servants for their hard work across Newfoundland and Labrador. We are working on a system whereby contractors or companies can engage with a private contractor to get that yearly elevator inspection done, Speaker. We do, Speaker.
Order, please.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm happy to discuss this further. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Fairyland.
Thank you, Speaker, and I guess 65% is not alarming, so somebody should be asking that question, why they're not done. Okay, we're waiting on inspections, then hire more people to get them done. I mean, that's obvious. These elevators are used in schools, shopping centres and hospitals every single day. Thousands of people are using hundreds of unsafe elevators. When is the minister going to take action to ensure public safety?
The Honourable Minister for Government Modernisation and Service Delivery.
Speaker,
Order,
I
please.
do feel it important to clarify for anyone watching that the characterization of the elevator inspections is completely inaccurate, Speaker. There are regular routine inspections required, and we are changing the system so that people who operate elevators can have a private contractor, one of the elevator experts, do that inspection. Speaker, our department, we prioritize, we have a risk-based approach to prioritize the elevators that our team inspects. Any elevator at risk is inspected, Speaker. Any new elevator installed for the first time, Speaker. Any elevator that's being fixed and placed back on the market is prioritized, Speaker. At the moment, we are doing a good job of inspecting elevators in terms of the priority and where the biggest risk is. Thank you, Speaker.
Well, the Summer's Canada Games is quickly approaching, and this morning the host committee unveiled its volunteer uniforms. There it is, an event of this size will need around 5,000 volunteers, and now we know what they'll look like when the games get underway in August.
It is time for the weather. Carl is out and about.
Yes, there are a lot of folks here in the Avalon Mall cinemas playing chess.
How do you do, sir?
Well, food insecurity in this province is on the rise. A survey from Statistics Canada says nearly 1 in every 3 people in Newfoundland and Labrador considers themselves food insecure. So joining me now to talk more about that is Josh Smee with Food First NL and Daniel Seward of the Single Parent Association. So Josh, can we start with you? Can you talk about what it means to be food insecure?
It looks like many different things, and it looks different for everybody. But what we can talk about is three kinds of food insecurity. First, what we call marginal food insecurity. I think a lot of us are familiar with that. It's where you might have had enough to eat today, but you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Then you go up to moderate. That's where you're starting to make some of those really tough compromises, changes in what you're eating. You might be shifting healthy foods out and processed foods in, things like that. And then you get to severe food insecurity, which is a fancy way of saying hunger, not having enough calories, not getting enough food to eat. So when we talk about that number, 30% of people in this province, that's people in all 3 of those categories, because we know that you move from group to group really easily. You know, you might be marginally food insecure today. You're 1 flat tire away from being moderately food insecure tomorrow. You know, it's that easy. And so we talk about them as that group.
And so it's 30% of the people in this province consider themselves food insecure. That's a bigger number, bigger percentage than last year. It seems to be growing year over year. Maybe not surprising because, you know, we talk about the cost of living, inflation, that sort of thing. But what did you think when you saw that percentage has grown once again?
I mean, I think about the absolute number. That means there's over 150,000 people in this province who are food insecure, right? Which is just wild. And that number, you're right, it went up since last year. It's gone up, it's almost doubled since 2021, right? And so I think what that makes me think is that the scale of the response that we're making to this is just not matching the scale of the problem, right? And we're just seeing how much impact changes in the cost of living are having, and nothing's keeping pace. Wages aren't keeping pace, social programs aren't keeping pace, and it doesn't always feel like there's enough urgency. Like, if you went back to someone in 2021 or 2017 and said, in a few years, 30% of people are going to be food insecure, they would have looked at you like you had 2 heads, and they would have said, this is an emergency. But it doesn't always feel like an emergency on the ground when you talk to decision makers. It sure does when you talk to anyone who's food insecure. So I think it feels a little bit like there's a disconnect sometimes between that reality on the ground and the priority it's taking.
And Danielle, the survey shows that single parents and children are particularly vulnerable to food insecurity. Can you talk about what you hear from single parents about how difficult it is to get food on the table these days?
Absolutely. We've seen higher demand through our Single Parents Association food bank than ever before. And it seems like I'm saying the same thing every single year because that demand keeps growing. We have more and more families that have never registered to be a part of a food bank that are now coming to us looking for help. And I'm speaking about, you know, working single parent families. It could be your neighbor. You have no idea who's coming to get food to put on the table or other household items that they need for their children. Times like that are particularly challenging as we come into the summer months when kids are out of school. So they don't have school breakfast programs. They don't have school lunch programs that parents can rely on. And we're seeing now as the weather is getting warmer and we're preparing to go into the summer months, that demand is just skyrocketing even more than before. On the flip side for us then as well, for our organization, we are 100% donor dependent. So while times are tough for single parent families, they're also tough on donors. So folks have less and less to give while demand is going higher and higher. So we're definitely at a pretty difficult crossroads right now. We're seeing a lot of single parent families having to make impossible decisions between, do I turn the heat on to keep the kids warm at night, or do I, you know, buy a small meal to put on the table? And no parent should ever be in that situation.
What more needs to happen to help single parents in particular so they can get through this and feed their kids?
Absolutely. So I think it's a comprehensive approach. It's, you know, the cost of food and household items, but it's the cost of living in general. And we talk about that so often, but as any family unit, you have your budget. If you're a single family unit, that budget is significantly smaller. So when you have to make these decisions on where that small pot of money you have is going, it doesn't matter sometimes if the cost of food in particular is lower, if your cost of utilities and other bills are higher as well. Because we are completely donor reliant on that, there isn't any sort of funding available for us to provide meals through our food bank. We do have a lot of sponsors, but we rely on other community organizations, similar to Food First NL, in order to, give us food that we can then provide to single parents and their children. So, there's certainly a big disconnect there. The community is very resilient, and we have a lot of organizations that have been key partners in helping us get to where we are. But we're facing that crossroads of how do we even get across that next step, especially now going into the summer months, because donors' pockets are getting a lot lighter as well.
This is a problem that we know how to solve. Governments are presented with a lot of really tricky challenges, ones that don't have an obvious solution or a one way to go that evidence tells you will work. That is not true about food insecurity. We know what works, and it's getting financial help to the people who have the least.
And with the provincial election upcoming at some point, politicians are certainly listening right now. So Josh Schmee, Daniel Seward, thank you so much for this. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, today, government confirmed that even though it's eliminating the sugar tax, it won't cut the programs the sugar tax funded. One of those programs offered continuous glucose monitors to diabetics to keep an eye on insulin levels. The aim is to better control the disease. The province is losing out on $12 million by removing the tax on beverages with added sugar. But the health minister hinted today that the glucose monitoring program will be expanded.
We've had some great results from our pilot project, and stay tuned because within a week or so we're hoping to make an announcement on how we can expand that.
Many Canadians appear to be still opting out of traveling south. Early Statistics Canada numbers for April show a sharp drop in return trips from the U.S. Last month saw a 35% drop in cross-border vehicle trips compared to April of last year. Even the number of Canadians coming back by air has declined by nearly 20%. It's a third straight month of this downward trend. Many Canadians have been boycotting the U.S. over tariffs and Donald Trump's talks of annexing Canada. And a St. John's restaurant was named one of the best in Canada again. For a third year in a row, Portage made it to Canada's 100 best restaurants list. Coming in at number 78, it's the only restaurant from Newfoundland and Labrador to make it to the list this year. Owners and chefs Ross Larkin and Celeste Ma say it's great to be recognized.
It's a great honor to be on the list. Like you said, there's the only one in the province and one of three in Atlantic Canada. So it's a pretty big deal for sure.
There are so many restaurants in Canada. So.
Yeah, there's 78,000 restaurants in Canada. I Googled it.
That's a good fact.
97,000 if you're considering chain restaurants. So yeah, it's a ton of restaurants in Canada. To be on the list alone and just narrow down to 100 is crazy. The fact that we're on it with the type of restaurant that we are and the food that we do, there's very different styles of restaurants on the list, and to be a restaurant that serves deviled eggs and plates of vegetables family style is a pretty big deal.
We're pretty casual.
Yeah.
It's food we want to eat. A lot of the influences, things, Ross grew up eating and things I grew up eating just kind of combined to make it food that we like and want to share with people.
I usually just do what Celeste tells me. She's like, oh, hey, I have this idea for a new vegetable dish. And I'm like, okay, I'll make it happen.
It's true.
Yeah. We ask the cooks, too, if they have ideas. And, we brainstorm and they'll come up with something and we'll narrow it down to, maybe less of this or it needs something else. And basically just how does it taste? Is it good? Okay, great. Let's tweak it a bit. Do you want to eat it? Sure. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's just make fun food you want to eat, taste good.
And
pretty simple.
Eating the way we like to eat, like sharing, eating together rather than you have your steak and I have my fish and then we, don't really know what each other is eating. We like eating together. Everyone's sharing everything. You're talking about the food you're eating, and it's a great experience, like a shared experience.
Yeah.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped?
Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Innu First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, we have an update from Marystown, where volunteers are in the third day of a recount over the riding of Terra Nova, the Peninsulas. CBC has learned that an unprecedented number of ballots are in dispute, 1,041. And that means we don't expect to have a result tonight. In fact, we don't expect a result for another few days. The judge overseeing this recount will now go through the ballots one at a time and make a decision over which are accepted. Just moments ago, reporter Heather Gillis, who's in Marystown for that recount, spoke with the two candidates at the center of all this. Remember, Liberal Anthony Germain beat Conservative candidate Jonathan Rowe by just 12 votes. That's the reason for this recount. Here's what they have to say about it all.
Well, it's kind of nerve-wracking in some ways, but I'm as confident as I was on election night. I mean, a 12-vote lead is hardly, a gigantic lead. But the process, I wish I could tell you more, but, we signed this oath of confidentiality. It's a fascinating process to watch, and now it's in Judge Handrigan's hands to count up those disputed ballots and make his decision. Democracy can be messy at the best of times, but it's really meticulous to watch a bunch of people, like 60, 80 people from Elections Canada, the Conservatives, Liberals, dissect 41,000 ballots, I think is in total, and go through them and break them all down to get to the number that we're at right now. So it's meticulous, it's painstaking, and I'd be lying if I said I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed in how much time it's taking, but this takes a lot of time to count that many ballots.
Well, we're certainly excited to hear the results either way. I mean, it's been almost 2 weeks now since the election. It's been a few hours of sleep lost, as you can imagine, but we're excited to hear the news.
Yeah. What is it like being inside that room? I know you can't share a lot of details, but hearing, all of the arguments and all of the highly detailed arguments about, what way this could go.
Well, I mean, Judgment Day is scary, and it can go either way. The judge is doing, we have a good system in Canada where there's a lot of safety measures, a lot of checks, and the judge understands the importance of taking everything into consideration and really doing a good, thorough job. And we're comfortable waiting until tomorrow hearing. We don't want to rush this process, and we're thankful to have live in a society and a country where we're able to get good results that go through the process.
Wow, and what a tedious process that must be to go through, to comb through every ballot. 1,041 ballots in dispute. My goodness.
I wonder if, where that stands in other places, right? Like, if that's normal to see that many.
Yeah, well, it says unprecedented, so I guess it's very unusual to have that many ballots in dispute. So it'll be so interesting to see over the next few days. What that result is. My goodness. All right, Ashley, so let's talk about the forecast. We were talking earlier about how hot it was in Lab West today and the concerns, I guess, around wildfires.
Well, that's
which is a big thing right now.
Yeah, we're, already seeing some drought. That's abnormally dry conditions. That is not going to help this situation for sure. And as we head through the weekend, there is a bit of rain in the forecast, so that's good news. Let's take a look at what's going on until we get there. So Thursday evening, the best chance of seeing some showers will be along southern areas of the island. And then we get into some cooler weather up across Labrador as we head into Friday. So there is a chance that we could see some flurries in the mix there, especially along the coast. Most of Friday should actually be fairly nice across the island. Now we may see some lingering cloud cover along southern areas, particularly of the Avalon and maybe even the Burin Peninsula. But other than that, by the time we get into the evening, more widespread cloud cover moving in, especially up across Labrador and then along the northeast coast as well. Overall, daytime highs will sit pretty chilly for those of you towards the coast of Labrador, only about 2 to 5 degrees. That will extend down through the northern peninsula and along the strait. And then for the island west coast, we'll see some cooler temperatures as well, only about 6 degrees for your Friday, 8 in Gander. But we should see some double-digit temperatures in the mix as well. That will be the story for Lab City, where you hover around 10 degrees for most of the day. Now, as we head into Saturday, this is when the better shot of showers will come in. And that will be for Lab West, where you will see that towards the morning and afternoon hours. Otherwise, most of Saturday, again, will be fairly nice and dry for a good chunk of the rest of Labrador. And then the island portion of the province as well. Daytime highs will jump back up again, somewhere between 10 to as much as 14 degrees through the day on Saturday. Now, winds will be a little bit onshore, so if you're towards the coast, along the northeast coast, temperatures will likely be a little bit cooler than this, around 7 degrees for Port aux Basques as well. Still hanging on to the double digits in Lab City at about 10 degrees, 12 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. You get towards the coast, though, those temperatures only sitting around 4 or 5 degrees as your daytime highs. Now, after Sunday, we're going to continue to see some mild temperatures, but it does look like Monday we'll see a little bit of a drop in temperatures. At this point, staying dry, although there has been some showers in the forecast over the last couple of days. We're going to keep an eye on that, but for now, cloudy with a temperature near 8 degrees for the long weekend there. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at some dry conditions and mild conditions. So again, whatever you are doing on the long weekend, please just make sure you're being fire smart for sure. Monday, you're looking at 10 degrees for western Newfoundland, dropping down to the single digits for Monday, but still a decent day. A little bit more cloud cover in the forecast for you though, both Sunday and Monday. And then Labrador, you're looking at rain for the remainder of the long weekend, Sunday and Monday. And then we may even see some flurries in the mix for those of you in Lab West. Temperature down to about 3 or 4 degrees by the time we get there. Our weather photo of the day taken in the West Coast. It's the end of the day. Western Brook there. Thank you to Scott for that lovely photo. And if you have any you'd like to share with us, send them to nophotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, all the snow there still.
So much snow still.
On top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Gorgeous shot. Those shots are always so beautiful. Gross morn.
It is gorgeous.
All right. Well, getting closer and closer to the long weekend. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.